So we are starting off in this empty container within my project because I think it is better that we kind of start with, you know, a new scene, so to speak, than reverse engineering the other scenes. Mostly because I feel like the process will come across cleaner versus in the context of all of this. But that's just me. ADHD things. So we have our object, which is this bottle, kind of inspired by the Johnson and Johnson No More Tears shampoo. And then we have this texture that we made that says no more worries and fears. It's cheesy, but our project is kind of centered around childhood nostalgia and reflecting on that as an adult. So, as we usually do with 3D objects, you're going to want to create a geometry from your file in. So we have our geometry there, and of course we're going to need a camera as well as a light, and I usually like to have an environmental light. Maybe we'll use it, maybe we'll not. And then also a render. So, and I will find a texture for that light in a second. Everyone kind of sets their stuff up differently. Sometimes I'll follow tutorials and set it up exactly the same way. And then other times I'm just kind of like, I like doing things my own way. So as long as you have your light, your camera, let me move my mic a little closer. Sorry. As long as you have your light, your camera, your geometry, and a render top, you should be able to see. So we have our geometry in the 3D space, but we don't have texture yet. So we're going to create a PBR because I think it looks best, let's be honest. We have our PBR. You go into here, into your maps, and do base map. And this isn't really practical, but because lighting is a little weird in Touch Designer sometimes, I like to put my base map in the emit as well, just in case I want to give it some extra lighting. And then we're going to drag this on. Oh, whoopsie, wrong guy. We're going to drag this on to our geometry. And then, oops, hold on a second. Something's odd here. There we go. Triangulate faces needed to be turned on. Still a little dark. We could adjust our lighting a bit. So let me just find an HDRI for us to use. Let's get our GLSL top. And as I mentioned before, this GLSL was vibe coded. I do not have a very strong coding background. I have enough to know what's going on background. So if you're already good at coding, then feel free to be, way more exploratory than I will be with this. But I asked Claude to basically make me a realistic water shader for top, GLSL top in Touch Designer. So there's been times where I've just kind of asked it to vibe code from scratch, so to speak. That feels so awkward to say, but without any reference. And then other times I give it a more direct reference. So I just gave it this PDF on like water and lighting and like refraction, and this is what it gave me. And then these are the uniforms it gave me, and you can also kind of preview what it might look like. in Touch Designer, which is really interesting. So we have this scale, we have this like light, caustic, foam. I don't think I'm a fan of the foam. I would actually like to take that out. We have some depth, wave amplitude. Ooh, see, now we're getting like really fun. That's pretty, but I'm not a fan of that foam. So maybe let's make some edits before we put this into Touch Designer. All right, we have our vibe coded GLSL. So this was made by Claude. And you know, you definitely have to have some sort of clear idea of how cameras and materials work, and then just basically describe your idea to Claude. I think this is satisfactory for the level of realism that we want. So I'm just gonna quickly tweak the level on this.
Alrighty, it looks great. We could definitely adjust the size of things. So I'm going to take away this viewer for the material and just focus on this. And also I'm going to size it to the size of my monitor. So yeah, now you can really see the details. I'm just trying to see how it looks if we position it a certain way. We can adjust our camera probably. Like this. Actually, we don't want to mess with the camera scale. Instead, we can mess with the field of view. And then let's lower the camera slightly, and then rotate up. Oops. It's basically perfect. Alright, so we want to mess with our noise just a little bit. So what happens if we take the parameters of this noise and match it up with this one? Oh, let's see. Wow, we definitely need to fix that. Yeah, no. Let's just adjust that part manually. So now we have this, and our amplitude is like this, and maybe we could scale it. I don't know if scaling up or down is more ideal here. Maybe scaling up. And then we mess with our period, and our harmonics again. And so this is getting a little bit more watery. So I just changed our parameter size to 3 just to get a little bit more dynamicness out of our water. And I'm still not quite happy with this. So I just want to bump up the columns and rows one more time. And let's see, what does it look like at that size? Okay, so that's a little better. Alright, now. Just messing with the perspective here. Alright, so now that I have a good perspective, I actually would like to bring this emit down a lot lower. Yeah, that's better. Alright, so these are how my maps look now, and this is how our water looks. Now we want to add in our other OBJs to the scene. So, if your models come in like this, you just want to turn on triangulate faces. You want to give them both geometries as well. So that's our duck, and then we give this one geometry as well.
Alright, so we've just placed our textures into our maps for our nice props for our back scene. Let's see what else. Okay, 1 second. right, so we have this bathtub. We want to use that as our background, so let's find this. I'm going to do a movie file out, or movie file in, my bad. We're going to do a movie file in, and, whoops. And we're going to put our bathtub in there. So, we're going to create a composite. And then add the bathtub. We're going to do alright, so we're going to do a over. That's looking a little funny, we know. We're going to do parent panel size, or rather use input maybe. And then this one, we set it to our resolution. There we go. So now we have this. We definitely need to adjust that background a bit. So let's do a transform. Oh. Oh, wait. Slight slip up. Okay. Perfect. Kind of. Almost. Almost perfect, but not quite, because, you know. So, how do we combat this? So it turns out we actually didn't need the rectangle, we just had to adjust this slightly. All right, perfect. So what might have made this even more realistic probably would have been to, I don't know, maybe make this like 3D or something. But I think it serves its purpose. So yeah, and we didn't end up needing the rectangle. I don't know. So we will adjust this just a little bit just to make it match up a little more. Be like that. And maybe instead of our ultimate size, we'll actually put this as the environment map. Yes. Now it's looking a lot better. And maybe we can bump up the dimmer. What happens if we put it up to like, oh, not that much. Maybe about, actually, maybe about 3. Yeah, that's good. And then let's mess with the brightness still. The gamma as well. Maybe something like this. Contrast. Maybe something like this. Okay. Oops. I'm starting to think that that is a little too bright, so actually let us adjust our environment light. So if we have our environment light at 1, okay, we're almost there. Wow, that's looking great. Looking great. Maybe leave contrast around like, whoa. What do I have this on? Hold on. Yeah, I have it as over. Level 3 is over transform. Let's put another level right here. Alright, that's nice. That's nice. Is there any possibility that we can... Okay, this is great. This is great. Alright, now, how about we... Let's see. How about we control the rubber ducks position using inputs from MediaPipe? This one, if I have more time, as in if I were to make this a super in-depth tutorial, I'd probably make both reactive, but because so much time has already been spent on compositing and tweaking, let's keep it relatively simple. You can just have it off to the side, kind of like a prop. Yeah, I think that's cute. Very believable, kind of. Just keep on messing with its position in space till it kind of looks like, you know, it makes sense where it is. I honestly think this is perfect right here. Great. Right? Well, there you have it. That is how you make an interactive 3D composited scene using MediaPipe as an input, using shaders for 3D textures within a scene to make things more dynamic. I think this is a great workflow. There's so many things that you can do with it to make it look nice. And I also tried at the end of my, initial scene of the project where we had the playground, we did a little thing with the filters. So before, I definitely wanted us to have more like a pixelated look, but we ended up going for this like painterly look. But just so you can see what that might look like, let's put null here and also a null here, just so we can see. And then I'm going to turn off this. So we have this and we have this. That is crazy. The water looks wild, but I honestly kind of love this. Like, it's like a nice noisy little filter. It's just really interesting, honestly. What else? Okay. And then we have this. It's more like a pixelated look. So you have something like this. That's really cute too. I honestly like the way both of these look. So yeah, this is the final product of the tutorial and a little look into how we created the scenes for our immersive experience. And I hope I could be a good, educator of some sorts. And yeah, if you guys want the shaders that I vibe coded or anything, feel free to message me on Instagram at aqua.grl.